Sushi. It seems really intimidating, but as I like to say, if you can make a sandwich, you can make sushi. It's really not that hard. There's a couple of techniques we've got to get right. So first up, let's get the rice cooking. So sushi rice, unlike if you're just cooking some white rice to have with a curry or something, it's a bit more particular. You need to make sure you get the ratios right. So it's effectively a 1-to-1 ratio on volume of rice to water, but after you wash it. So let's get the rice in and then we'll wash it. So you can do it two methods. I'm doing it in a weight method, which you can do, but the weights aren't the same. So I'm using 675 grams of rice. It's actually, I think it's 850 grams of water because it's volume to volume. Into cold water. You don't need heaps this first time, and just work it for 1 to 2 minutes. Top it up with more water and drain that off. Fresh water, again, work it, top it up, drain it off. We're gonna repeat that one more time. Gonna fill that up again with fresh water, and then we're gonna drain it through a sieve. So we're going to put the bowl back on the scales, rice in, make sure you get every grain, tear it off, and I'm going to put 810 grams of water in here. So this is the point that if you were using 2 cups of rice, you would put 2 cups of water in. Now the ratios are slightly less than you'd use for cooking rice for kind of steamed white rice. And the reason being is you need to leave some evaporation space in the rice for the sushi rice seasoning that we're about to make after this. To the rice cooker. And optionally, you can also put a piece of kombu in here, which is a dried seaweed. Not 100% necessary, but certainly adds a level of umami to your rice. And then you're gonna turn your rice cooker onto the white rice setting. If your rice cooker's fancy and has a sushi rice setting, then I'd use that also. Let's make that seasoning now anyway. So I like to make the sushi rice vinegar myself. You can just buy it and there's nothing wrong with that also. But it's pretty simple to make. You're gonna need some rice vinegar. I use this one. Any kind of rice vinegar will really work. 120 mils of rice wine vinegar. 34 grams of salt, sea salt, and 12 grams of sugar. I also put another little piece of kombu in there. You can do this in a bowl and just stir it, but I do it in a jar and just shake it until all that sugar and salt has dissolved. So we're gonna need 120 mils in total when we're making that amount of rice that we've just put on. But you can make this and store it in the fridge, it'll be perfectly fine. All right, I'm gonna clean this mess up and then we're gonna get all our other ingredients ready to go, so we're ready to roll. Ready to roll? So one of the first ones we'll make is the maki, which is the little ones with one ingredient normally. So one ingredient wasabi. So we're gonna do some cucumber ones and we'll do some tuna ones. So we're gonna need to prep this cucumber for that. So you're gonna get your piece of nori that you're gonna use, and we're gonna make sure it's the right way, which is the shorter way with the lines running this way. And we're just gonna use that to kind of roughly mark so that we have cucumber that's the right size. We just want long strips effectively. I'm gonna cut it in half into quarters, then we'll take the seeds out, and then we're gonna cut each quarter into 3. You end up with strips of cucumber. They're about 1/2 centimeter square roughly. Okay, spicy mayo. Now, it's a good time to talk about what we're making today. We're not making traditional sushi here. We're making, I guess, a westernized version of sushi. So, Kewpie mayo. This is often made with sriracha. I prefer to do it with Tabasco. I think you can kind of control the sweetness a bit better then, and the heat. So, a bit of Tabasco, a little bit of chili powder just for that extra kick. That's quite a lot of chili powder. This is why you use spoons to measure your spices, and you don't just pour it out, because accidents happen. Disaster averted. And controversially, we're also going to use a little bit of ketchup. Give that a little mixy. Have a taste. Yeah, good. Got a bit of kick, and you want it to have some kick because you've got to think that it's going to be surrounded in rice and fish. You will lose a bit of that heat, so I'm happy with that. There's a recipe for this below. Make sure you taste it and adjust it to your seasoning. If you don't like it too spicy, pull back a bit on that chili powder. So the Futomaki that we're gonna make, which is kind of the big one, it's probably the most common one that you see in Australia and New Zealand. We're gonna do the classic panko crumbed prawn, or you can do the same technique with some strips of chicken. All these flavors are all interchangeable, so really choose your own journey. So I've got some nice big raw prawns here. We're just gonna peel them. We're gonna leave the tails on because I think it adds a nice little garnish part at the end. You can also just take them out if you really wanted to. And you run your blade down the back and we'll pull that entrail out. I'll get these all done and then I'm gonna show you what we do to get them cooked. So now our prawns are all nicely peeled. We're gonna skewer them up the center. And the reason we do that is so that they stay nice and straight when we're cooking them. Then they're gonna be easier to roll. And you're kind of trying to put the skewer straight up the center of that big muscle and then through the tail. And that's gonna give us a much straighter prawn when we're cooking it. It's an optional step, but I do kind of encourage it. I think it makes it way easier to roll. When these cook, they have the tendency to roll over and curl back up into their natural shape. Another tip, if they're feeling very tight, is just give it a couple of little, very light incisions on the underside, and that should kind of loosen that muscle up a little bit. But don't go too deep or you won't be able to skewer it through properly. Pretty simple kind of breading process. I got some potato starch. You can just use plain flour if you want, or corn flour. Whisked up egg, panko breadcrumbs. Take each one, light dusting in the flour. It's a bit trickier because they're on skewers, but trust me, it's worth doing that step. Dust off any excess into the egg, straight into the panko. Really push those panko on there. If you are ever going to stack anything crumbed, make sure you add a few extra breadcrumbs to the top of the first layer, and that way if there is any moisture, the breadcrumbs will soak them up. I got some oil at 180 degrees. We're just going to fry these until they're golden brown all over. Don't overcrowd your pan. I'm just going to do 4 at a time. It's really important to put these on a rack to drain a little bit, and also for them to cool a little bit. You don't want to put these in the sushi roll while they're piping hot. You want them to be kind of well rested, put it that way. Fish, the important fish. Now, I go to my fishmonger when I'm doing this. They sell sashimi grade packs of fish. We've got tuna, so this is yellowfin tuna. This is king salmon. This would be a farm product. And then this is haramasa kingfish, which is a farmed kingfish product as well. You can use wild kingfish, but the big wild kingfish start to get pretty tough, so you don't want something too big. Anyway, go to your fishmonger and talk to them about it. Don't just buy fish from the supermarket. You need stuff that's fresh. How do you know it's fresh when it's already cut up? You use your schnozzer. It shouldn't smell like anything really. Like, you know, the salmon should smell like nice salmon. The tuna should smell like tuna. The kingfish doesn't have much of an odor at all. If there's any odor on it at all, probably not best to eat it kind of raw anyway. So can you cook this stuff? Absolutely you can. But I would suggest instead of buying tuna and cooking it, just buy good quality, you know, line caught tuna in spring water and using that instead of trying to cook it yourself. You could pan sear some salmon and use that as well if you're a bit unsure of eating raw fish or you're new to it. I'm going to use it and kind of cut it kind of to order as opposed to cutting it all up now because it's already kind of filleted and there's, you know, the skin's taken off it, which is fantastic. Our rice is cooked, so let's get that seasoned so we can start making some sushi. Woo! All right, here's our sushi rice. You can take our piece of kombu out, it's done its job. So this is called a hangari. It's not necessary, it would be necessary if you worked in a very fancy or any sushi restaurant. It's what the Japanese use to season their rice. This one's kind of old and it's a bit small for that amount of rice that I've got. So I'm just gonna use a big open bowl. So by all means, I don't expect you to go out and buy a hangari, but you kind of want a bowl that's ideally big and flat so we can season this correctly. So I'm just gonna scoop this rice out and then keep the sushi rice bowl nearby because we will store it in that while we're making it. Cut your rice up at start using like a flat paddled, ideally the rice spoon that comes with your rice cooker, but you can just use a big flat spoon as well. Break it up a bit, and then we've got our sushi rice vinegar. We're just gonna carefully kind of sprinkle it over, and the reason we do this action with the paddle, the rice paddle, is that we're trying to make sure that we get every single piece of rice has some contact with that sushi rice vinegar. And then we're gonna use this kind of cutting motion to cut through it. What we're trying to do is keep the grains nice and whole and tight, but make sure that every single grain of rice is nicely seasoned. As it loosens up, you can kind of use more flicking motions more. And it's all nice and light and fluffy and feels consistent, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Consistent. Okay, now we've got that well seasoned, we're actually gonna put it back into our rice cooker bowl. It's a great way to kind of store it because it kind of keeps it hot. And you don't want this like piping hot, you just want it, I guess, ambient or room temperature. Well, just above room temperature actually. Let's just have a little taste of our rice. Yum. Well seasoned, nicely cooked. It's not salty, it's not acidic, it's not sweet, it's just really well balanced. Also got an avocado. We cut this ala minute so it doesn't go brown, so that's why that's there like that. I'm not gonna run you through my setup. I've got my sushi rice here. It's covered in a damp towel so that it doesn't dry out. I've got a bowl of water, which is really handy for when you're dealing with sushi rice. If you have wet hands, it works a lot better. We've got our sushi mat, we've got a couple of knives ready, a damp cloth so that we can wipe them. And we got our mise en place. We got our fish, our cucumber, we've got some wasabi for some of it, our prawns, and our spicy mayo is just under here. So we're gonna start with the maki, which is the easy one. Well, it's not the easiest, it's just I'm the smallest one to learn how to roll. So we start with our nori. So we want the shiny side on the outside. We only want half a piece of nori in this piece. So just fold it in half, run your knife up it. Sushi mat down, shiny side down. Now we put the rice on. Now you see this, the real pros at this, they make it look so much easier than I'm gonna make it look. We get our rice on here. It's really important we keep our hands wet and clean. If you have a little bit of rice on your hand, make sure you get it off. So we wanna leave a gap at the top and also a small gap at the bottom. You want an even layer of rice all the way across, and you don't want it too thick. That's the biggest mistake I see when most people make sushi, is that they have their rice way too thick. So there's definitely enough rice on this roll now. I just need to push this rice down to the side so that we don't add any more and that we don't have too thick of an amount of rice on there. You also want it really even. If it's not even, it looks kind of weird. You want what we're gonna do, cucumber first. So you want the cucumber nice and centered. So we've got a little gap at the bottom, we've got a little gap at the top. So far, so good. Okay, we're gonna do a little bit of wasabi. The truth is most wasabis in the supermarket's actually just horseradish dyed green, but that's okay. You can buy fresh wasabi. They grow it in Tasmania now. It's really expensive. If you feel like being bougie, go for it. You kind of have to grate it on a special grater. It's actually made out of shark skin. Who would have thought? So we've got a cucumber, nice and centered, time to roll. So we're gonna bring the nori closer to us, bring it over, push that under. So the piece of nori that's the furthest away from you, the end that's the furthest away from you, comes over the piece in front of you. Make sure to get a nicer shot of that in a second. Make sure it's nice and even and firm all the way across. These will kind of be a square shape. So we kind of use our fingers to push in. Roll over one more time and really bring home that square shape. One more for good luck. There we go. Seam side down. Make sure you got a sharp blade and it's a bit damp. That's why that damp towel's there. And cut it in half. Few motions, little motions. You don't want big motions here. Pull your two rolls together and you're gonna cut this into 3. Wipe your blade if it's getting sticky with rice. There you go, our first sushi, cucumber maki. Okay, we're gonna make maki now, same as this, but we're gonna make with tuna. We'll make a normal one with just a little bit of wasabi, and I'll make a spicy one with togarashi, which is like a Japanese 5-spice, like a spicy spice blend. A spicy spice blend. But first we need to cut the tuna, and I like to do this last minute. So we've got a nice piece of tuna here. Effectively, we're trying to replicate the same sizes that we've got with the cucumber. So we're gonna cut strips about 1 centimeter long, and then because those are about 2 centimeters in like width, we're just gonna cut them in half so that we end up with strips like this, and we'll use 2 for each one that we make. Looks like a jelly lolly, doesn't it? Looks yum. Okay, we're just gonna make 2 for now, so I'll just do that much. Save that for something else. All right, if you find yourself with a piece of tuna like this that has you know, some of this intermuscular kind of sinew on it, this piece isn't too bad. You could almost use this if you wanted to, but what you do, if it gets much worse than this, or even at this point, using a spoon, you just kind of flake it off like that. And then when you get to that sinew part, pull that off, and then that's rubbish or dog food. You're gonna have a much more tender piece. I mean, if you're working in a very expensive sushi shop, they'd probably do it for this type of piece, but sometimes you will get a piece of tuna it's far more kind of aggressive. And you can see how easy that protein just peels away from that sinew. That's what you're looking for. You can just use it like you would in a maki or in any tuna. So there you go, perfect tuna with no sinew. So same as before, got our sushi mat down, we've got half a piece of nori, shiny side down, damp fingers, sushi rice evenly spread across it, small gap at the top, small gap at the bottom. Not too much rice, nice even layer. Also worth mentioning, you don't need to like push this really, really hard down. You don't want to completely mush the rice. So we'll just go to plain tuna first, a little bit of wasabi down the center, and tuna. So to roll, up over the top, overlap the further flap from you on the piece closest to you, push down into a box shape, flip it over once, push down again, nice and tight. There we go, tuna maki. I'm gonna slice it the same as before, damp knife in half, and then each half into 3. Don't forget to wipe your knife between each slice. It makes a big difference at how the knife goes through the sushi. There you go, tuna maki. Let's make that again, but a spicy one. My first head chef job was at a restaurant called the Great Eastern Dining Room in Shoreditch in London. We made a lot of sushi there. So that's kind of where I learned to make sushi. We had 2 Japanese sushi chefs that worked there, and they did a fantastic job. So there you go, maki rolls. It's kind of the easiest one. It's actually my favorite to make. I love the simplicity of it, like 1 ingredient and 1 other seasoning or flavor. And you can do whatever you want. You can do avocado ones, you can do tuna ones. Probably wouldn't put one of those prawns in there because they're probably a bit big. Have some fun with it. But next up, we're gonna make uramaki, which is an inside out roll, which is a slightly harder version to do, but it's not too hard. I'm gonna make it some salmon and some avocado. All right, Futomaki, or inside out roll, often called. We're gonna cover our sushi mat in plastic. Okay, so the reason we do that is so that the rice won't stick to that. Put that down. And this time we're going to use a whole sheet of nori. It's a much bigger roll, the same as before, shiny side down, just like so. Just like before, we want to leave a gap at the bottom and a gap at the top. But we're obviously going to use twice the amount of rice because it's a much bigger piece of nori. All right, now we've got that ready. We're going to flip it over so the rice is facing down. Start with some wasabi across the bottom, piece of cucumber, some avocado. So take your avocado into a quarter, peel your quarter, and then slice, push forward, slice, push forward, push forward. We'll use that much. Place our avocado in. Salmon, same as with the tuna, we want some battens, but we're going to go 2 per side. And shout out to Steph, my sister-in-law, who brought me this back from Japan. Roll it up. Now it rolls a bit differently to the other ones. That's okay. All the way over. And we want this one round, not square. So roll it in tight. Put that seam facing down. And this one can be a lot trickier to slice. But just as before, damp knife, nice and clean. We're going to cut straight down. Keep the end bits in there like that. And then we cut our pieces about 1 centimeter thick. It's often common that they'll roll this in like sesame seeds and stuff, or like an orange fish roe is pretty common as well. And this end bit, it's always for the chef. Yum. So there you go, salmon and avocado uramaki, or inside out roll. Next up, Futomaki, which is the more traditional seaweed on the outside, large roll. We're gonna do it with the tempura prawns and some spicy mayo. Same as the maki, but a larger sheet this time, shiny side down. Sushi rice, nice and evenly. Leave a gap at the top, gap at the bottom. Spicy mayo, you put this in a squeezy bottle if you're doing a few of these. I love squeezy bottles, but I hate cleaning them. So I only use them if I really think I'm gonna need them. So we are gonna put some avocado in this. And the prawns, just make sure you pull the skewer out. And we're gonna have a decent amount hanging out. You kind of want that whole tail to hang out at the end. But some people will happily, like myself, will happily eat that tail. A lot of people won't. Now, sometimes these skewers can be a bit tricky to get out just because it's kind of fried around the top. Just carefully give it a tap and it should pull right out. And that goes, we're ready to roll. Tuck that top under the bottom, over it goes. Same as the uramaki, we want these round. Make sure they're nice and tight. Stunning. Then to slice, same as before, nice clean knife, a little bit damp. Take the top off, nice little presentation piece, and some nice slices. Oh yeah, look at that. Stunning, chef. So there you go, panko fried prawns, avocado, spicy mayo, futomaki, and there's even one piece left over for the chef. Little dip in soy sauce. That is delicious. The crunchiness of that sweet prawn with the creaminess of that avocado and that spiciness of the mayo. It might not be super traditional, but it is absolutely delicious. All right, I hope you come away from this thinking that you can approach this dish. It's not super complicated. Don't go hard on yourself. Like anything in life, do it a few times and it'll get easier. And I'm just had a brain thought. That doesn't make sense. I'm gonna show you something which is like, what's going on? I thought my job was done for the day. This is called a hand roll. Take a piece of nori, some sushi rice in there, a little bit of wasabi, whatever fish you like. I like to dice it up for this in the center, a little bit of togarashi, and roll it up. If all else fails, who can't make one of those? I needed that, I was getting hangry. Thanks for watching, legends. Like this video if you took anything from it, subscribe if you're not, and we'll see you next week for another recipe. Peace. Suppose you guys want me to make you sushi now.
I'm getting angry too, chef.